And welcome back to another Who Would Win on the Week of Who Would Win. This one comes to us from I Like the Coke version 2, who asks the question, who would a fight, Lord Zedd or Skeletor? Yes! Two conquering tyrants of their respective worlds who just want to dominate and beat down their respective foils, He-Man and the Power Rangers. Skeletor's backstory has varied from different versions. However, Skeletor overall, and I'm just going to get his, let's see here, Skeletor. There we go, Skeletor. Again, it all depends kind of on his, on which backstory you go with, but the general backstory of Skeletor, more or less, was he was originally an inhabitant of another dimension, at least by the mini-comics anyway he was, populated by others of his kind. During the Great Wars, a dimensional hole opened up and Skeletor was thrown from his home dimension to Eternia. He initially sought to open a portal back to his home world, which would allow his people to invade and conquer Eternia alongside him. But before he became more interested in simply seeking the power of Castle Grayskull for himself. But in later mini-comics, which largely ignored his origin and took more cues for the animated series, it's hinted that he is the long-lost brother of King Keldor, who was said to have disappeared many, many years ago and lost in another dimension. Skeletor was determined that no one should learn the secret of Keldor and the truth that would lead to his destruction. Skeletor was forced to contend with the return of his old mentor, Hordak, and forged an uneasy alliance with King Hith. Now, as we said, his origin has varied depending on what version you look at. But most seem to go with the Keldor thing, Keldor origin, particularly in the 2002 TV series where guys like face melted off. And then you got the Master Universe revelations, all that. Point being is that Skeletor possesses an array of mystic powers that seem to vary depending on the whims of the particular writer, using him at different times. However, all portray him as an extremely powerful sorcerer with control over vast ranges of dark magic. He also possesses considerable scientific knowledge and is shown to have a skill in creating various machines and devices in the Filmation and New Adventures animated series. A notable skill in the Filmation series that Skeletor's ability to instantly teleport himself back to Snake Mountain, usually by saying, "I'm going back to Snake Mountain." He's usually armed with a magical weapon called the Havoc Staff, a long pole with a small replica of a ram skull and a crystal ball embedded within it. He can discharge bolts of mystical force from the head of the staff, or use it as focus for more powerful magic. Sometimes Skeletor does display the ability to discharge energy from his own body, as seen in a 1987 film where he casts lightning from his hands, Emperor Palpatine style, and in the original animated series where he projected energy from his fingertips and even eye sockets. In the 2002 series, his innate powers seem more limited, although his abilities, when in conjunction with his Havoc Staff, seem nearly unlimited in scope and highly potent raw power. In the early miniseries, he sometimes possesses one half of the Power Sword. From this weapon, he could also project magical energies. He has displayed many other skills, such as the ability to teleport himself and others various distance, send telepathic commands to his minions, open gateways between dimensions, or perform remote viewing. He's also shown himself to be a gifted swordsman, a master of the mystic arts. He's also privy to much secrets about the universe. Though mainly a sorcerer, he is more than capable physical combatant, has above average physical strength, as proven numerous encounters with He-Man. So yeah, that's the general rundown of Skeletor. He's a powerful mamma jamma. But Lord Zedd is no slouch himself. Lord Zedd showed up basically, I'm trying to remember, I got his whole wiki up here, so hold on. He showed up, when did he appear? Because I remember when I did watch Power Rangers. Yeah, he did show up in First Arrival, and it was still Mighty Morphin Power Rangers showed up. He was basically the main villain throughout the latter part of the original Ranger series, before we basically went into Power Ranger Zeo, and then Turbo, and in Turbo they basically say that they're basically retired at that point, but they do come back in Power Rangers in Space, and then ultimately he is turned back into a human, but is then later resurrected, the evil part of him, in Dino Fury, which I'll admit his design of Dino Fury really isn't that that bad, all things considered, based on the original version of him. But and apparently he may have more roles to play in something called Cosmic Fury. I guess is the next one they're doing. But yeah, his power is he was way more powerful than any minions. He was also more powerful basically than Rita. And he was considered on par with Zordon in terms of overall power. While formidable, he was still much weaker than Master Vile, King Mordo, or Dark Spectre, so he was quite intimidated by them, though to his credit, he was much more well-known and feared than the other three, being one of the most notorious villains in the Power Rangers history, as he was a candidate for the Reanimizer, and chosen by Rigol over them. He does have super strength, though, capable of... he was able to pick up Void Knight above the head with one hand and send Slither flying across the room in a single kick, easily beating them both up. He is basically immortal, over 10,000 years old, never aging a day. He's capable of conjuring things like a staff into midair and just growth bombs, or just grenades that make his monster grow. Telescopic vision, basically he can just see things far away. Thunderstorm creation, where he's created a thunderstorm over the moon. He can also project himself in the clouds of said storm. He can teleport using a lightning bolt. He has the ability to charge up his fist with electrical energy, and he basically uses the bend metal or strike someone. He can fire lightning bolts, random lightning bolts from his hands. He can open doors to get dimensional gateways, but his bad aim but he has bad aim. He has the ability to he has to fall asleep every 100 years to restore his power, but it's unknown how long it takes for him to do that. He has lightning empowerment. In the episode Old Foes of Dino Fury, Lord Zedd was able to charge himself up with red and white lightning for an increased strength boost. He's able to apparently also create red-pink shockwaves with every strike he makes, and is powerful enough to overwhelm Brine Blast and Wolfgang. Okay. He can create shockwave blasts in the same fight. He was able to fire off a pink shockwave-like blast from his brain strong enough to knock down all 5 Rangers in one hit. He also has lightning beams, which he can fire from his hands, and monster creation. He's also a skilled hand-to-hand combatant, where he was stronger than Void Knight and was able to match Tommy in martial arts, who was a skilled martial artist himself. He's a weapons designer, an expert tactician, psychological warfare master. He's also a good American football player, and expert Zord pilot, because he does have Serpentera, or did. Serpentera is no longer around. He is, however, limited by a few things. He's limited by the laws of nature. Basically, in the episode The Ninja Encounter Part 2, where the writer tried to explain why he couldn't just use his magic to germinate the Terra Blossom seeds without needing a heat source. Basically, if you were to say convert a monster from, in this case, a plant, and the plant wanted to germinate and make more monsters, and makes throwing seeds, he still needs heat and water and all that. He can't just magic it. His magic, that's very lazy writing, but not even lazy writing. That's very writing yourself into a hole writing, but there you go. His Z staff reliance. Despite being an immensely powerful magician, he requires his staff to actually use his magic. If broken, as happened when he fought Tommy, he would be unable to fight or cast spells, meaning that he would have to retreat. Well, okay. Does that mean he can't fight like hand-to-hand? Or does that mean like he just can't use his magic? Because still, he's got he's still got a lot of abilities. Like when he breaks out of prison in Dino Fury, I don't see a damn staff in his hand in this picture. Hold on, I'm getting... Yeah, I don't see a damn... And clearly he blasted his way out, fought his way out. So guess what? He doesn't need the staff to fight. Magic is a different thing. And most likely, it's like his most powerful magic he can't use without his staff. He could probably use some magic still. His Z staff, obviously, as we say, is a large silver staff with a Z for combat. It was always cool looking. Zedd was always a cool looking villain. Like fleshy, almost like freaking Hellraiser-like design. I always liked him. But he's, again, lightning generation, putty generation. He can also vaporize items with his wand or staff. He can generate wind. He can apparently resurrect individuals. That's impressive. Conjuration with the staff, Lord Zedd. He could create random objects with his lightning staff. This was shown when Goldar tried to sabotage his wedding by Rita, not having a musician, but Zedd solved the issue by creating a piano and teleporting Snizzard into play. He's also capable of creating curses. Managed to create cursed objects using his staff, giving them different effects, such as cursing 2 pairs of sunglasses to make the wearer see whatever is around them as putties. Interesting. Monster growth, that's standard. Standard energy blasts, energy fields. He also avoid the Void Saber. The Lord Zedd took Void Knight's personal weapon and tried to kill him with it, but was stopped before he could strike. So he does have apparently the Void Saber, whatever that is. Sleepy Cuffs. He used this to put 4 of the 5 Dino Fury Rangers into a sleep-like state. Sporix Generator, interesting. And Serpentera. Now, General Vedrix took control. I thought Serpentera was destroyed. Hold on. I know that. Was it not really destroyed? Because I remember there was that whole Legacy episode of the Red Rangers where they went to destroy Serpentera. Years after its destruction, Tommy Oliver shows Serpentera to the new Dino Thunder as he explains the power transfer and the threat Zedd posed. When Evox summoned the massive Chimera Zord, Jason compared to Serpentera, saying that Evox Zord was way worse than Serpentera due to having multiple heads. Okay, so, I mean, as far as I can tell, show Serpentera. Okay, I take it back. They never destroyed I could have sworn, like, in that episode, it was about destroying Serpentera, but no, as far as I can tell, I guess they didn't destroy Serpentera, which means that I guess we got to get him Serpentera in this fight too, which, okay, let's adjust this real quick. Serpentera, the giant Chinese dragon, planet-destroying Zord. Dear God Almighty. It is in length 500 meters long, height of 345 meters, a weight of over 500,000 tons, or right around 500,000 tons. Its level of power included long-range communication, great, lightning empowerment, charged by lightning, mouth energy blast, it only did this once and failed to stop Cole and the Wild Force Rangers. Warrior mode transformation, where it's able to bend back and stand in an upright position. It's not really a warrior mode, it's just standing on its legs. Lightning breath, was able to spew lightning from its mouth. Mega lightning stream, it was able to fire continuous streams. It seemed to upgrade this one. Black hole blast, where it was able to ability where it charged its yellow lightning into its throat before spraying it into the ground to a continuous stream to create a massive void in the ground, which will consume a planet's entire surface, making it disintegrate. Yeah. Oh, also, it was strong enough to, it was the most powerful Zord of the entire Zordon era, and remains to this day one of the most powerful in the Rangers' history. A single attack from it was able to destroy entire planets in seconds, and nearly destroyed the Thunder Zords entirely with a single blast. It was durability. It was shot many times by the Wild Force Rangers without taking any visible damage. It was also immune to sand, even though its course rough and gets everywhere. Space travel. Speed to teleport. It lacked the ability to teleport, but traveled around the deserted planet less than a minute after the Power Rangers, despite having them a significant head start. Incredible weight, super heavy, as we just went. Flight. So yeah, and it has claws. So this thing is a beast, but it had 3 major weaknesses. Formally, though, only one of them. Due to being a massive Zord with many components needed to operate, Serpentera was unable to destroy the Earth twice, as he was completely out of power. When General Venjix infusing it with a neo-plutonium core, this is no longer a factor, so screw the fuel consumption problem. Speed limit. It was immensely fast, but could only reach hyperdrive and speeds once before having to refuel. This allowed the Power Rangers to use a sort of light to transfer powers from the Thunder Zord assault team, Buzz the Giant Zord, and without getting munched on. And vulnerable mouth. The mouth is apparently its only one real weak spot. Okay. So, if we're going power to power, tacticals to tacticals to tacticals. Well, tell me, Rita, would you like to see my tacticals? Okay, enough of that. We're going intellect to intellect. Abilities to abilities. Court, head to head. This is actually a relatively evened out match. The magic to magic Skeletor, I think, does a little bit more variety, But Zedd's got a lot going for him, particularly when you add in his staff. So their magic is most likely canceling each other out a lot of the time. Where it would come down to most scenarios, then would just be physical abilities, which in that case, Skeletor's got that in the bag compared to Lord Zedd. Lord Zedd's physically powerful, sure, he can even take on multiple Rangers, but Skeletor normally dukes it out with He-Man. And He-Man is like literally can lift mountains without a problem. He moved a moon. So, granted, it's in space, no gravity, all that, but still, he was able to push an object out of its orbit. And he's got toe-to-toe in combos with the likes of Superman. And He-Man can go at least keep up with that character. Granted, he's not as strong as He-Man. That's always widely accepted. He's not as strong as He-Man, but he can keep up with someone like He-Man. And if you can keep up with that level of strength, if you're a 10, if your opponent's a 10, all you need to really do to be able to keep up is be like a 6 or above. You're still going to lose most of the time, but the fact that you're beyond half of that means that you can at least keep up. Skeletor's probably a 7, whereas He-Man's a 10. But Zedd probably doesn't even measure on their scale of power normally. Like he's maybe a 1 or 2 compared to them. So physically speaking, yeah, He-Man or Skeletor is the one who's got the physical edge. Plus he's got, Lord Zedd's probably got more experience. But in terms of actual fighting, which Skeletor actually does, he's probably the better hand-to-hand fighter, too. And there is a very big weakness for Lord Zedd that Skeletor doesn't have. If that rod's destroyed, a lot of his power goes away. Not all of it, but a lot of it. So you would think then that relatively comparable magics, but a better physicality, just a bit more actual physical combat experience, and a legit weakness with his staff would make this a clear win for Skeletor. Except if you add Serpentera into the mix, because Zedd can just teleport if he needs to into Serpentera just to get in there, and Serpentera is a planet buster, and Skeletor is not a planet buster. Skeletor is powerful. He-Man on his best day could be a planet buster, but that's on his best day. And Skeletor, even on his best day, can't beat He-Man on his best day. And we're just talking about sheer power and magical energy. And yeah, if Serpentera comes into the fray, that's going to be a problem for Skeletor. That's going to be a severe problem for Skeletor, because there's nothing he really has in his arsenal that can take on something like that. Especially if he starts throwing out black hole blasts. Black hole. Literally, I called it the right name too. Black hole blasts. Especially if he's firing out black hole blasts and just going to incinerate the planet. But this is where I think tactics and tactics and experience play a factor. Both these guys are arrogant, but Skeletor is, I think, a bit more conniving, and both are capable of opening up dimensional portals. Now, Skeletor's aim is admittedly not the best. Oh, no, sorry, it's Lord Zedd's who wasn't the best. Skeletor doesn't seem to have that problem. So if he had to, he can open up a portal to wherever he needs to go, and those attacks can go through the portal and not hit the planet he's on. Then it's just a matter of figuring out how to bring down Serpentera. And since he can technically teleport where he needs to occasionally, he could either find his way onto the Zord or try to use his magic to locate the weak spot of it, which would be the mouth. And then it would just be a matter of figuring out how to bring the Zord down from there. But he'd have to fire off a very powerful blast of energy, like more powerful than what he could just naturally do. He'd have to do like a Zord level of power of energy, which he's capable of. But that's not like, every day, I'm just going to blow up a sun. Hold on. Or I'm just going to fire off a nuke. Boom. Now, he can do some of that level of power, but that is like a lot of his true, that's like a lot of energy and not something that's easy. So could he bring down Serpentera? He'd have to do a lot of conniving, a lot of trickery, a lot of tactics, and also try not dying while doing it. If he managed to bring down Serpentera, that doesn't stop Zedd from showing back up and taking the advantage and basically going after the weakened Skeletor. And, he'd be firing energy bolts, lightning bolts. Maybe he'd even destroy his staff with disintegration. And Skeletor would just be, on the ground. There's only, I can't remember. See, Zedd's voice from the series is one of those voices that I remember distinctly, but it's not one I can do an impression of. You think, I'll do my best. It's like, you don't seem to realize there's only one master of evil here. And he's just pointing the staff at Skeletor. It's like, you're right. And just grabs the staff. There is. And just breaks it. No! What did you? No! He's still got some power, but now it's like, I wonder, you're just like me. You use your staff for your power, enhance your power, don't you? But unlike you, fool. Fool all of a sudden he just totally binds Zedd with like chains or something like that. I only use it as a conduit. I can use my magic without. I have no problem using it without my staff. And it starts like just now then. Like it's like, huh, no, what are you? It's like, now then, what should we do with you? And yeah, I think it really would be Zedd. Both these guys are arrogant, but they're arrogant in different ways. And I think Zedd would be the one to. I mean, they both like to gloat too, admittedly. And whoever would be the one who's on the ground after the melee with Serpentera, and I do think it'd be Skeletor, assuming and Skeletor may be like feigning defeat as well. He might say like, I surrender, you win, oh, you win. It's like, of course I win. And he comes down and but enough of it, he like gets the staff and he still breaks it. Again, this also comes down to the fact that physically speaking, Skeletor is the more physically abled individual between the two of them. Like, there's no contest really physically between them based on the individuals they have fought. So, through conniving physicality and a little bit of luck, I would probably give it to Skeletor. Zedd, though, when you throw Serpentera into the mix, is a very dangerous. I mean, he's a dangerous guy anyway, but he's a very dangerous dude beyond that. Anyway, though, this is just my opinion, obviously. Who do you got in this fight? Let me know. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.